I feel really awkward now. Hello, my name is David Garwood. Is that it, or do you need anything else after that?
Hey, thanks for coming back to the channel. We are really fortunate to have my new friend Dave Garwood on the channel today to talk a little bit about his first time touring. Now, Dave's been a viewer for quite a while, a couple of years, and we met at the NAMM show back in January. We actually stayed at the same hotel and got a chance to hang out a little bit and chat after hours. And shortly after we all got back from that, he found out that he was going to be going out on his first tour, which is something he's always wanted to do. So he agreed to come on and kind of tell us a little bit about what it was like getting ready for that tour, what he was told in advance, and how it lined up with reality. And it's really awesome to get to talk to him and see how his career is progressing. So let's jump right into it now with Dave Garwood. How have you been, man?
Good. Been very busy. Working with my regional company. It's been keeping me very occupied, and it's been great.
That's awesome. What's the now? Is that who you were out on the tour with? Is that or is that like an independent thing, or did they send you, or?
Basically a larger company. My boss is friends with the owners of a lot of other larger companies, and they subcontracted us to kind of fill in for them because they were short on some PA. Right.
Okay.
And so my boss sent me out on that. Sent me and one other guy out on to do that. So essentially, I was touring with the regional company, but for a larger sound company.
Oh, cool. What were you guys doing? Was it, what kind of show was it?
It was a large rock concert. We were doing, I would say probably 7 or 5 to 10,000 seat amphitheaters.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Our job was just strictly in charge of PA. We weren't like in setting up consoles or handling inputs or anything like that. We were just PA guys.
Okay.
It was actually really strange because there was, I feel we did like 8 or 9 days, and 4 of those days we didn't actually set up PA because it was already installed in the venue.
Right. Okay.
So it was one of those things where it's just like, okay, we're out here, but we're not doing much work.
Right. Yeah. Now, on those days when you went into venues like that, were you guys like supplementing the house PAs with what you had, or were you taking over system engineering from the venues, or were you just there to support them at that point?
Yeah, no, we left it all in the truck. We would kind of assist the tour. This larger company is a company that I've always wanted to work for ever since I went to college. There was like the big 3 that I wanted to work for, and I've always tried to apply to them, and it would never work. And I wanted to try and make a great impression on them. So even on days where we were actually hanging PA, I would go and help the monitor techs and the stage techs, help them set up and do whatever I could to help them, especially during loadouts, just to help make a good impression on them and to show, hey, I've got work ethic, you guys should hire me type thing. But yeah, generally on days we weren't doing anything. We were there just as a support to help them and do, whatever was needed to help get it done. Really, like there's like 2 sides of it that I prepared for. There is like the actual work that I'm doing, preparing, and then there's the traveling and living with people on a bus type preparing.
Right.
There's like those 2, like the working and not working preparing. As far as working, me and my boss, we sat down and we looked at all of the venues we were going into, and we kind of looked at, what they look like and tried to get as much information as we could. We looked at, I found out like all of the information about the PA that I would be taking, different arrangements of that would be possible, and trying to figure that out. And prepping, we went and set up everything to make it as, as little steps as possible, for when we got into the venues. So, we like linked all of our cables together, and we set up our amp racks to where there would just be as little steps from the time I got off from the truck to the time we were turning it on, and making it, preparing that and doing that as simply as we could. We found like sound vision files for all the venues that we were going to be in. We were using L Acoustics K2 PA, so
okay.
we had the access of database, their venue database for sound vision. We had access to that. We looked through that, and my boss contacted some people to see if they had any for the ones that to kind of fill in the gaps that we were missing from that. And we did all of that as much ahead of time as we could. And communication with the tour production, and the systems engineer we brought in who was going out, communication with him, establishing everything, so that way when we went to prep 3 days before we left, everybody kind of knew everything, and it was just there wasn't many questions to ask, just knocking everything out and getting it done. And then as far as like preparing for the touring lifestyle, preparing etiquette, I was asking questions to everybody who's been on tour. I was like, is there anything I need to know that I need to do, as far as living on a bus? What are the, obviously everybody knows about the rules living on a bus, or I guess not, but there are rules to living on a bus that some are obvious and some you don't, some people miss, and just being able to get along with people, I guess. And so that, like, we were on a short run, so we weren't really with people for a very long time to get annoyed with them or anything like that. We didn't run into any issues like that, but just keeping a constant calm demeanor, because if you snap at somebody or yell at them during a show day, it's like you're going to see them later that night because you're going to be sleeping on, literally on top of each other.
Yeah.
So you gotta be wary of stuff like that.
Was there any one piece of advice that you got that was really good, that really helped? Or was there anything you did specifically that somebody told you, like, hey, you've got to do this?
I think it was like I just said, keeping your emotions in check was really what helped me. It's like it's something I noticed from a lot of other people too. It's everybody's very calm and very relaxed and very smooth. Working for a regional company, sometimes it feels very like go fast, like get this done, and then like with the tour, everybody kind of goes with the flow of everything, and it's very smooth. And I think that was what helped me a lot. When that was one of the biggest things somebody told me, it's a lot more go with the flow and relaxed, and that helped me a ton, was realizing that. And it was something I realized when I was out with these guys. It was like by the 5th or 6th date, when they would sit, we'd obviously have a little bit of downtime. So we would sit out like on a back dock and some chairs by the buses, and, we would chat and hang out. And when they would go to complain about people who were previously on the tour or people who weren't good, they weren't ever complaining about somebody's work ability. It was never that. It was how that person was on tour, as like their personality.
Yeah, it's always the personality. Yeah,
it was always the personality. It was never how bad somebody was at something. It was just, oh, this guy was so crazy, or how did we put up with him for so long, type thing. And I was just like, I don't want to be that guy. So like that actually calmed me down a lot, because I was really worried that I wasn't good enough going into it. I was like, there's no way I'm good enough. I feel like I'm not good enough to be out here. These guys are so much better than me. They're experienced, and like our systems engineer is front of house for a much, almost an A-list artist, and he does that as like his other gig. And then, so I'm like nobody out here, and I was just very nervous. But hearing that they never worried about people's work ability as much as it was more the personality was a big thing for me.
Definitely, yeah. If you've been invited out, it's kind of assumed that you belong there, and just people want to work with people they like working with. Seems to be the thing that I find is, even if it's not
right.
that even if it's not that somebody necessarily did something wrong, like people, you meet groups that have been together a long time. It's because they all kind of get along the same way, or they have similar interests,
right.
and just enjoy traveling together.
Yeah, and like a lot of the artist crew, like his monitor engineer, production manager, and those people essential like to the artist. This one in particular, he really took care of those guys. Like the monitor engineer had been there for 25 years.
Dang.
Yeah, and like the production manager had been there for just as long, probably even longer, and like I think his stage manager was there just as long of a time, and he took care of them. And so they knew they were a camp. They were a family,
You're in Florida, so did the tour start in Florida, and how far did you go? Like, where did you guys get to?
It did. It started in Florida, in Tampa, that's where I'm based out of, and basically it was like a 7 days. So we went from Tampa to Fort Lauderdale to St. Augustine, then we went to like Nashville. It was all in the regional South. We went to New Orleans. There was Arkansas was in there, and then I think the last date was in like in Missouri or something like that. And it was, like I said, it was all small amphitheaters.
Right.
So it was still, even though it was 2 weeks, we were still on a bus, still staying in hotels on our days off. And then I think we ended in Missouri or somewhere like that. Then we went over to Dallas, and then we flew out of Dallas home.
Well, you went with your boss, you said, right?
No, actually my boss found somebody else like at last minute.
Oh, and
him in.
Sent you. Now, did your boss give you any specific advice?
He gave me. He actually sat me down in his office one day and kind of went over like bus etiquette.
Okay.
Because he tours pretty regularly with an artist doing front of house for them. He sat me down and he was like, "Look, here's the thing about living on a bus. She's like, you're living with up to 11 other people. You need to understand that you've got to respect boundaries. You've got to understand that, you are not alone here. You're with them, and it's pick up after yourself. Like all of that stuff like that."
Yeah.
And which, it seems like common sense, but you get into the huff of it and you get excited and you can kind of forget sometimes. He, obviously no number two on the bus. What is yours on the bus is yours. Don't take somebody else's things. Just kind of common rules for living with other people.
Sure.
And he went over like, what our day-to-day schedule is going to most likely be. It's like, I'm probably going to roll in first, and then we're going to work on, I'm going to do like this side of the PA, and then our systems tech is going to do this. And then once I'm done, I'm going to go start working on subs, and then Mike, and then our systems engineer is going to take care of stage left PA. And once he's done with stage left, he's going to go set up a front house, and then I'll take care of subs and stuff like that. And then he went over like just the working with people on a daily basis, and like I was discussing earlier.
What was something that like surprised you the most about the whole experience of like working in different cities or working in new venues? Was there anything that like kind of caught you off guard? You got out there and you're like, oh.
It was really two things that got me. The first thing was waking up at a new location every day. That threw me off. I would go to sleep like as the bus was moving, and then I'd wake up and I'd walk out, and I had no idea where I am.
Right.
Like I know there's signs to point me to places, but I'm just like, I've never been to this location before. Like, where are we? What am I? I was almost like a lost child to a degree, and you like kind of just start walking, and hopefully you stumble upon something. Being in a regional company, we always work in the same 8 to 10 venues, so we kind of know where everything is. And when we work with touring crews, you'd always kind of joke that like, come on, it's obvious the thing is right over there. But being on the other side of it now, and I'm just like, holy crap, you really don't know anything. You really don't know where you're at. You don't know locations. It's like, wherever the production manager told us that we were that day, you kind of just believed him. Like, because you really no way to verify that you were there unless you went on your phone. And then the other thing was just how calm everybody was, how relaxed, how chill everyone was. There was never any hostility. There was never any blow-ups or anything like that. If there was an issue, somebody would kind of come and talk about it, and you'd say like, "Hey man, you made this mistake. Can we fix this?" I was like, "Oh yes, I'm so sorry. Let's do that. Let's do it right now, and let's get this correct." It was never like, there was never any hostility or anger, and it was like I love that about it. And that was yeah.
That's awesome. Sounds like you had a really good group of people that were.
We really did
out there.
Like they were a really good group of guys.
What would you say was like the biggest challenge, either like logistically or gig wise? Like, was there anything that came up on the jobs, or was it just like smooth sailing? I mean, you had a pretty nice rig out there, so it sounds like you probably had a pretty good time.
For us, it was kind of our loadouts were a bit tricky because our stage manager kind of didn't like. He saw us as a vendor crew and not as part of the touring crew. So like, you know, towards the end of when we start a loadout, it's like if there were stage hands, you were short. We were the ones who got shorted to kind of supplement everybody else, which always made it a little bit more difficult.
Sure.
But I mean, besides that, I feel like we never really ran into issues. There was a couple times where we would go and, you know, we would shoot a room, you know, map it out in sound vision and set up PA, and we would miss a couple. We miss like a side or two, and we'd have to get like throw something up real quick, like some ground stack Karas or something like that, to make sure we could get coverage where it needed to be. But I mean, besides that, I think that was really it. You know, we're working in amphitheaters, which are really well designed for what we were doing. We weren't going into like clubs that were kind of retrofitted for concerts, right, and kind of just trying to make it work. So that made it really nice.
What was your favorite venue out of any particular, like out of the ones you were at that were just really cool that people should check out if they're local?
We did the New Orleans Jazz Festival.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Which was very cool. We were the headliner on like the first day of the festival. That was really cool to be there and just kind of see that and say, hey, I've done that. And then there was there was an amphitheater in Arkansas. I think it's the Walmart Amphitheater. It's like a brand new, recently built within the last 5 to 6 years. And it was just really nice. The amenities were really nice. It was well designed. You know, and it made our job easier going in there. I think for me, the things that like make a good venue is kind of the stupid things, like things that really make my job easier. When you're doing PA, you kind of have to go back and forth between being on the ground and being up on stage, and venues that make it easy for me to do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're dealing with like almost an 8-foot deck, so you can't really jump off of that sometimes, you know, or there are other venues where the only way downstage is a ramp that's, you know, 50 feet in the opposite direction that you have to walk all the way around the back behind the building to get to the front, which just kind of wastes a lot of your time. So that one was one of those venues where they did it really well, and it was really great.
Are you planning to try to tour more in the future? Is this kind of, it was a positive experience, it sounded like, so that's...
Actually, yes. I leave in 2 days to go out on my next tour.
Cool.
I was saying earlier that, you know, I wanted to impress this company so much, and it worked. I told the guys, I was like, hey, look, go tell your boss, you know, you guys are starving for techs. I'm starving to tour. Like, this is what I want to do. So they, 3 days after I got home from this first run, I got a call from that company saying, hey, we've heard good things about you. We want to take you out on this next run and with this other artist. And I leave Friday the 5th, and I'm going to be gone until October.
Wow. That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, going on a full country run up and into Canada. And
that's really cool.
Really worked out.
That's really cool. Now, that's definitely something that I think you're obviously out on the road for a few days with these guys, and it's obviously something you want to do. It sounds like you get it about, you know, getting to know people and getting to establish relationships, and I find that some people really miss doing that right. I don't know if there's any advice you can offer for like how, you know, just kind of being a normal person.
I guess for me, like, I didn't try to force it. You know, what's difficult when you're doing it, like, you know, where you only have like, you're only with a crew for like a couple hours or one day doing one show. It's kind of tough because you don't have a lot of time to make that connection. But I got lucky because, you know, I'm spending 10 to 12 days with these guys in a row. So I didn't try to force it. I just tried to let it happen naturally. And it just so happened that the two of the monitor techs I was with, we kind of just became friends. Like, I wasn't trying to be like, I'm going to be nice to you guys so you'll give me a job. It was just like, wow, you guys are really cool. I like hanging out with you. You make me laugh. Like, this is fun. Yeah. And then on the other side of it with the work thing is I didn't try to be overzealous. I would hang out in like their monitor world. And these two guys have been on this tour for the two monitor techs have been on this tour for 5 years. And it's been the same thing for those 5 years. So they knew everything like the back of their hand. They didn't need my help.
Right. Yeah.
If anything, if I were to help them, I would get in the way. So I would kind of just hang back and I would just wait. I would be patient. I would wait for the opportunity to arise to help them. I wouldn't be overzealous about it. I think that's a big thing. Some people would try to be like, they try to show that they can help, and they try so hard that they end up actually putting themselves in a corner and making themselves look worse because they set the person to step back.
Yeah.
And you got to go correct something, it wasn't like I watched them do it for multiple days in a row, or by the 6th or 7th day, I finally saw how they were doing everything, and I was actually able to help them more thoroughly, and so I wasn't actually making those mistakes, so they're like it made me look better.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge thing, is like trying not to be forceful both about the relationship side and the work ethic side. You just have to let it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've always found that in new situations like that, if you just put your head down and do the work, and like you said, hang back and observe and see where they need somebody to step in, by the time you finish doing that for a couple of days, you kind of all are getting along anyway. You're not trying to force a relationship. You're actually helping them. And it's, no, that's exactly the right attitude, I think, for people to take.
Like, to watch, like, the progression of what I was doing with them, it's like the first day I saw them, I connected a couple RAM latches, and then I powered their feeder for them. And that was all I did. But I stood there the entire time they were setting up in case they needed anything, which is, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours that I could have been just sitting in a bus.
Right.
But I sat there and I waited. And then, the next day I observed a little more, and I saw how they were doing it. And then, that kept just building and building and building. And then by the 5th day, it's like I'm helping them run their subsnakes, helping them set up microphones, helping them set up their wedges and get that in place. And I kind of almost knew it as well as they did.
That's the way to do it. Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's so cool that you're going right back out with them too. That's really exciting.
Yeah,
stuff.
It blew my mind because I didn't expect it to happen so quickly. I was really sad coming back from this run because I really enjoyed it, and I did want to go back to doing regional sound.
Right.
Because I enjoyed the touring so much, and then I was like, maybe I'll get a call in a month or two or something like that. And then 3 days later, I get a call from the head of touring from this company, and he's like, so this guy's stepping down, and he suggested you take his place, and so you want to do this? And I was like, absolutely, let's go.
That's really cool. So everybody loves to talk about like gear and like little things they can buy. So I've got to imagine you did a short tour, you were home really quickly, and now you're going back out. Is there anything like you went out and you're like, I can't live without this. I've got to buy this thing, or either personal or I doubt it's audio gear, but like something comfort wise or like travel wise that you were just like, I can't do that again without it.
I got a bigger suitcase.
Right.
That was something the tricky thing was on the previous tour, we were going out for like less than 2 weeks, which is like not enough time to really expect a chance to do laundry, but like quite too long to fully pack for every day.
Yeah.
It was like that weird like middle ground. Like let me see, what did I think I have gotten a couple things. I got more. I got recently. Actually, I just went and bought some nice work boots. I was wearing tennis shoes on the last tour, and I just I didn't get hurt, but I just felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Going into the first tour, somebody told me I should bring my own pillow, so I went and did that, and that made a difference.
Oh, right.
Not that bus pillows are uncomfortable, but I'm just very picky about pillows. And then, I guess for this tour, if you want to talk about gear, I went and actually did a smart class.
Oh, cool!
And
excellent.
And I saw the timing lined up, and it was near me. So me and my production manager for the regional company, me and him went and did that. And now I'm kind of wanting to invest in smart and learn about that and start kind of building my way up to becoming a systems engineer and not just a PA tech.
So you mentioned the L-Acoustic stuff and obviously now Smart. Are there any other like key pieces of software, like apps or anything that are just like were really coming in handy for you or that you're using a lot? Or
yeah, like the Sound Vision was definitely a big one. The LA Network Manager the L Acoustics Network Manager, which is the program for kind of controlling the L Acoustics amplifiers and stuff like that. That was I kind of already knew that stuff going into it, but like that was a very handy program. And it doesn't just have to be L Acoustics. Whatever, any modern minor array system now, high-end modern minor array system now has their own program. I know D&B has one.
Oh yeah.
JBL has their own set. Which kind of I would recommend if you work for a regional company that has those PAs, learning those programs.
Definitely. Yeah. Now, were you an L Acoustics? Yeah. Was the shop you were at an L Acoustic shop to start with? So you were familiar with all this stuff before you hit the road. It wasn't the tour's choice.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we're an authorized L Acoustics, blah blah blah, whatever dealer, right. And so I kind of knew a lot of that stuff. I knew about how the speakers operated and a lot of that before going into the tour. But on this next tour, it's actually all JBL, and I've never used JBL before in my life.
Oh wow, okay.
So that'll be fun going into it. I'm actually excited to learn all of those new programs and stuff like that. Figure that all out.
You seem to be pretty big on training, which is something that like I really enjoy going and hearing people talk and doing seminars and training and stuff like that. You've done a few, it sounds like. Are you going to keep on with that? Like you found them to be valuable and worthwhile?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I am a huge proponent of going and doing classes. A lot of guys I work with are like, oh, you don't need to take the class for that. Just sit and learn it. And I'm the type of person where I like when somebody teaches me something because I feel like I take it in a lot more. Like for the smart class, for example, I had one of our systems techs at my regional company. He sat down and he kind of gave me a basic overview of it. And I was like, okay, I can kind of do something with this. It's neat to know. But after taking the smart class, I felt like I became really educated on the program. And that's a program you really want to be educated about.
Right.
You need to know what you're looking at in there. But like Dante certifications, I've done all of those. I've taken an L Acoustics actually certification course. And I'm a huge proponent of classes and learning. Like I'm always willing to go learn something and take that opportunity and for somebody to teach me something.
Yeah, I find that there's so much stuff out there now that's free, especially and online. It's so simple. Like I remember, almost 20 years ago when I first went to a PV seminar down in Mississippi. It was like a week-long audio training thing. And it was one of the few that was available back then. And yeah, you had to physically go to Meridian, Mississippi, where like the only thing was PV, and pay for hotels and all this stuff just to get like a basic introduction to their, live sound kind of thing. And yeah, now you can go on and get Dante certifications online, and that's one of the things I always find interesting when people tell me they're looking for work or they're having trouble finding gigs, and it's like, well, have you done any classes? And usually they don't, you don't have any certifications or you haven't learned anything new recently. So that's really cool to hear that like they're paying off. Pretty directly nowadays for somebody in a position like yours. You're going on a tour, you can take a current class, kind of download that information and then go put it to use. And probably by the time you're done at the end of this year, there'll be some new classes coming for the NAMM season in January to kind of tune you up for the next year. And like, it's a really cool attitude that you're open to that constant continuing learning. That's, I think we need more of that in this industry to keep people fresh as opposed to the I know everything.
And I think that's really important in today's industry because everything is changing so quickly. It's, I'm relatively fresh. I've been doing this about almost 5 to 6 years. So I'm not like, I will admit that when I started there, I did not learn on an analog board. I learned on a digital board.
Yeah.
And so it's like, but within that aspect, things are from that point of view even changed so much. It's, networking and fiber connections, stuff like that. It's like, it's just changed the game so much. And like I was talking, like the L Acoustics amplifiers, like how those talk to each other. It's, it's like even that is changing. And then the way L Acoustics does their system optimization is coming out and it's changing. And I feel like you can't be stagnant in this industry. You're going to fall behind.
Yeah,
very quickly.
Now maybe you can answer being out on the road recently. Maybe you can tell me at the end of this year as well. But I've kind of noticed that in the last handful of years, talking to like people, especially that are doing this at the top levels, out on tour, working with A-listers, all the way down to I do kind of B and C list level stuff that comes through on their way up and down. Is I've noticed like the grumpy, angry, I know everything kind of production people have kind of gone, and it seems to be a lot of really smart young people that are using technology and learning it, and kind of that same attitude. Are you running into that as well, like outside of
Absolutely. I think I haven't personally met the systems tech for my new tour, who is essentially my boss as a PA tech. I've talked to him on the phone. He seems like a younger guy. He seems like a guy who's not much older than me.
Right.
And he is, hip with the technology and stuff like that. With this way we're doing our setup for our tour, it's very like completely opposite of how it would have been done 10 to 15 years ago. And then like the two monitor techs on my last tour, they were guys who were just a couple years older than me. Like we were all within the same age group, and they were very like into wanting to do new things and learning and always trying to figure things out and wanting to experiment and things like that. Even the older, like the front of house engineer and the monitor engineer, they were older gentlemen, and they were very experienced, but they were willing to, they realized that it's like, I can't keep things the same way. Like I have to do new things, and I have to, like, things have changed and I can't keep doing these the same way. The monitor engineer for the longest time was on like a very an analog desk,
sure, like
a full-on analog system, and he very recently, within the past 3 to 5 years, went to a digital desk, a large format digital console. And then out front there was same thing. He was an analog guy, but he switched to a digital system because that's what needed to be done.
The gigs I do anyway, I feel like that's kind of transition. The people that are still working have evolved and they're learning, and the people that were the stubborn, I'm not leaving analog, or I just don't see them anymore, which is
it's kind of funny because we have a couple of minus H3Ks at our regional shop, and in Florida, from what I've gathered, the season actually kind of works the opposite of what everybody else is in the world.
Yeah, definitely.
And in the summer, it is very rainy. It's very hot. Nobody wants to go outside. When they do, shows get canceled because it rains so much. So our season kind of works from September all the way up until about, I would say, Memorial Day weekend.
Sure.
So, like, we were kind of getting that slow time in June, and a couple of guys are like, you know what, we have this H3K sitting back here. Like, why don't we do that? We have the time to play around with it. Let's take it out. And then they got to sit around and talking about like all of the stuff they would have to do to get it ready. And they're like, yeah, let's just go with the digital.
Yeah.
And so that quick, like, and that's kind of like the mindset that even like production managers have. It's like budgeting has become very strict now. It's like truck space is at a premium.
Yeah.
It's like, do you want to try and squeeze the full console, 48 channel console, and all of the external gear and all of that? Do we want to try and squeeze that in? To a truck? And it's like, it's not going to happen.
It sounds like you're headed right back out on tour, so I'd love to check back in with you and see how things are going and everything.
We actually our first dates, we go from we start in St. Louis, go to Chicago, Michigan, and then we're into Toronto.
Oh, geez. Wow. Yeah, you shoot right up there. Thanks so much for doing this, man. I really, really appreciate it. I didn't mean to keep you so long, but I appreciate your time and everything. Be safe out there, man. I hope you have a really good time.
Awesome, Steve. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dave, for taking the time to be with us here on the channel. You're obviously running between a lot of commitments there, and right now as I'm editing this, Dave's still out on tour, so I unfortunately missed him when he was in the area here just last week, but hopefully we'll get a chance to catch up either later in the year or then again at NAMM. And we'll talk again about how this tour differed from his first time out. And it's really awesome to have somebody like Dave who's willing to share these experiences with us as he goes through them. And I just can't thank him enough for being a part of it. So everybody go and say hey to Dave. It's That Sound Guy Dave on Instagram is his handle. And I'll link everything down below for him so you can find and follow along with all the fun. He's been doing some really cool stuff. If you follow along on his Instagram, I don't want to mention names here, but he's had a chance to work with some really cool people so far already, and that dude is going to have an awesome career. So thanks again for watching. Thanks to everybody that supports the channel, and thanks to Baz the Roadie for supporting the channel all through the summer here. It's been really awesome having his support. And if you're in the Pacific Northwest and you might want to do a workshop, live sound and pro audio in the context of touring and how to get involved in that kind of stuff like we're talking about here, BazTheRoadie.com. He's going to be releasing some fall dates soon for some workshops that he does up there in the Pacific Northwest. So that's an awesome resource if you want to learn more about this kind of stuff. That's all for now. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again very soon.